Ecclesiastes chapter 5 and verse 3 says that a dream cometh through a multitude of business. That means you got to stay busy at things. You can't just rest, sit on your hands. Hi, my name is Charles Vance. I'm along with Chief Strategist Terry Sacka, and we want to welcome you to the Wealth Transfer. Terry, great to see
Charles,
you.
How are you? How are you? Welcome everyone to the Wealth Transfer, where we do like to discuss biblical principles, global economics, and how to protect and preserve your family. And we like to give you information that you're not getting in the world. And I guess one thing I could probably say right off bat is you may not believe what we're saying sometimes because it seems kind of foreign to what you're hearing in other sources. But we've always been accurate all along. If the things we're saying, if people would have been doing them all along, they'd already be far better off as a family. So you just want to kind of keep it seriously that there's a systems of the world controlled by Lucifer, says the Bible, God of, and then there's dominion of the earth that God gave us, which is things like silver and gold. And myself, I actually come across here as the chief strategist and analyst. I've been in the financial system. I do have an accredited asset management specialist designation. I've been in financial advisory at A.G. Edwards, Series 7, 63, 5, 3 in commodities, retirement accounts. I get it. We are mainly in refining and minting of fine silver, and of course, education and advisory.
Your company, you own Cornerstone, Cornerstone Asset Metals, and you guys are now into, say it again.
Refining, minting, and we actually physically deliver silver to vaults for storage for retirement accounts. And we also, of course, physically deliver home for those that are looking to take it home.
I am a pastor of 20 plus years now, at the same time a businessman, because I believe Revelation 1 and 6 says that we're supposed to be kings and priests unto God, which means we're supposed to take care of spiritual things and material things while we're on planet Earth, which is going to be a really long time. We have owned a construction company that built upscale homes, a retail business, several investments. My wife and I own quite a bit of property right now, quite a bit by some standards, not very much by other standards, depending on what standards, but we have investment property and passive income property as well. So our goal has been for years to educate the body of Christ financially, and we came together 3 years ago or something, and finally this program came about, and we're trying to get some biblical and some financial knowledge into people so that they position themselves properly. Yeah. Wealth is moving all the time. Yeah. It's constantly shifting and moving. You know, you can look at the stock market. Years ago I was doing some day trading, and I was trading with a few $1,000s, and they gave me the top 20 most traded stocks. You only got that if you had so much money there to trade with. And it was amazing the volume of stock money that moved every hour. I'd never looked at that before. I was just amazed by it. So money is shifting constantly. Yeah. It wasn't anything for me to watch a trend on one particular stock and to just trade with it. I'd had 2 computer screens set up, so I just sat and just one would be off to the corner, and I'd work on the other stuff I was working on, just glance every once in a while. And after a while, I saw a daily trend, and I started trading, and it wasn't anything to make $300 or $400 a day just watching a trend, because money was moving back and forth. You have to position yourself. Yes. Everything, and it does that in all the economy. Yes. You have to position yourself so wealth will transfer to you and not from you. Yeah. Ignorance causes wealth to transfer from you.
It's not even just ignorance as much as we're busy. People are busy.
Busy.
Yes, yeah. And so what's happening is, you know, things are happening globally that we're not paying attention to.
Let me say this. Ignorance is derived from the word ignore.
Okay.
So people ignore things that they should be doing, or they are ignorant or void of knowledge of those things that they should be doing, and because of it, many times wealth transfers from them rather than transferring to them.
And in 2008, that was the beginning of it. Certainly. And so what we're saying is what's coming, 2008 was just the starter. And this has been so traumatic for so many people. So a lot of people have, you know, been able to get back to square one, but you know, we've been talking about the BRICS nations and how they've cemented this global trading route and dominance against the dollar, a challenge to the dollar, and why that's so important to your family's future, your retirement account. Because what you were talking about is what we weren't used to doing. This was normal, everyday American life. We didn't see the bigger picture outside the box.
And you end up ignoring things that you should be paying attention to.
Because,
you know, the system would like to keep us ignorant of things that are
there
going on.
There is no doubt about it. Because if we would have caught 2008 coming, you would have been able to get out of the stock market into a tangible asset like this. And when that happened, people made hundreds of % return by being in counter protective asset versus in the system. It took years for people to get back. Unfortunately, inflation has crept in and destroyed a lot of what you've gotten back. And now we see high food prices, high gas prices. And what we're saying is that now that we've seen the world, and I say the world, I mean the East, have seen the weakness of the U.S. system. Don't be fooled that what you see on TV, that America is the strongest one in the world and everything's doing great. There is a lot of data that's being presented that's just not accurate. And we may be strong to some extent, and there are companies that are. But what our debt obligations we have, what global dominance we had, how much printed currency we have, and how that's going to impact your retirement, how that's going to impact your 401ks, your IRAs in the future. If you think 2008 was a problem, wait until you see what's getting ready to come. There is some very unsettling information that shows what happened in 2008 was just the beginning. And the last few weeks we've been talking about the BRIC nations, which is Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, rising against the dollar and controlling where the dollar used to be dominant. Now, why is that important? We've printed trillions of these. The world is not using them as much, and we'll be sending them back home to America. And when they do, you think high prices now? Wait. But more importantly, your retirement will be severely damaged if you're not in the right place. The reason we say silver mainly is because it's the most liquid and it's the most undervalued and the biggest in demand for industrial purposes. Because remember, you may not even know that silver is the second largest commodity in the world next to crude oil, which most of us don't realize. It's in everything we do, medical technology, all the industrial complex, and yet for 10 years straight, we have been using more silver annually than we produce. We've gone from 12 billion ounces above ground down to 700 million. And so what we're saying for the body of Christ is to be properly positioned away from the dollar system like the 2008 crash brought upon you, be in something that God gave us like silver that is incredibly oversold and undervalued because of manipulation, but yet the world needs. And my colleagues in the mining say it actually will be extinct in possibly the next 10, 15 years, which is unbelievable to consider. So obviously that asset will have value different than the dollar. And what's really nice is you can put physical silver in a vault for your IRA. You can roll it over into a physical precious metals IRA, so you're not tied to the banking system. You're not tied to the stock market or the bond market. And so when this reckoning comes, when this challenge comes, when whatever's getting ready to come, which I contend is a new monetary system, a dollar reserve dominance change, something is coming that we can't quite explain, but I know it's going to hurt. If you don't believe it now, take down the website, take down the phone number. We've been around for years. We're not going anywhere. We can deliver it physically to your home. Don't even go to Cornerstone if you don't. It's not about that. Go anywhere. We want the body of Christ to be really protected because the BRIC nations are stacking up in the East. This program, we're starting to talk about the Petrodollar, what that really is, and how that's going to impact you. And wait till you see these next few weeks. And so for those that have the IRAs, you don't want to experience another 2008. Many of you can't afford to do that again. So register on this website, give us a call. We'll send out this package loaded with information that'll show you exactly the economic data we're talking about, why the dollar's days are numbered, and how simply and easy it is to roll over into a precious metals IRA so you can store all of your year's efforts in retirement in something tangible and, more importantly, hand it down to your children or children's children, because the reckoning is coming. The dollar will shift, and only something of a tangible world asset, earth asset, I mean, will be of value. And remember, think about it, Charles.
Well, it's going to increase in value.
Yes.
As man-made things decrease in value.
Yes, because think if we in the body of Christ were in oil, cotton, food,
right,
we would be wealthy already.
Sure.
You know, so this isn't, it has never changed. This has always been the condition. And we want people to know this because the Bible made us clear on good stewardship, proper managers.
Absolutely.
Money, like you always say, isn't just disappearing or evaporating. What it's doing is it's leaving you, going to somebody else.
Changing hands.
Changing hands.
Definitely.
And it has been changing hands.
Now, there's something that has been transpiring for some time now, and it's called the petrodollar, which is, again, these terms don't impact most people because most people don't pay attention enough. And again, it's ignoring something. They don't pay attention enough to what's going on globally or just even in the news, the mention of these things in the news. But the petrodollar is something that is very, very important to us.
Petrodollar, and we're going to go right into this video. This video is going to be a few minutes, and it is direct education on what this is. The petrodollar is the direct reason why we in America have been experiencing wealth and the direct threat to our sovereignty and way of life as we know it. And watch this video from the Success Council and how nice and easy they explain the petrodollar, and then we'll start going into some detail.
Millions of Americans don't know petrodollar. But the petrodollar system is the fabric that right now holds our economy together. The dollar became the world's reserve currency in 1944 at the end of World War II. Before World War II, the British pound held that role. Now, the dollar became the most important currency in the world, thanks to the U.S. having more gold and power than any other nation. But August 15, 1971, President Richard Nixon detached the U.S. dollar from the gold standard. The U.S. dollar no longer had gold as its backing. So what to do? In order to keep the dollar from crashing, because it was no longer attached to gold, the U.S. government attached the dollar to something else. Between 1972 and 1974, the U.S. government completed a series of agreements with Saudi Arabia to create the petrodollar system. Every barrel of oil sold by the Saudis had to be in dollars. Saudi Arabia was chosen because of its vast petroleum reserves and its dominant influence in OPEC, and the rest of the world followed suit. So the dollar, no longer tied to gold, but is now tied to oil. So how does it work? Well, it's pretty simple. If Italy wants to buy oil from Kuwait, it would have to purchase U.S. dollars on the foreign exchange market first to pay for that oil. Dollars for oil is a big reason foreign countries keep dollars in their reserves. Part of the reason we sell so many bonds around the world to finance our debt. So what if? What if another country wanted the same kind of world power over oil the United States has had for 38 years? Well, in order to do that, they would have to have huge gold reserves, a booming economy, and consume enough oil to warrant unhinging petroleum from the dollar into another currency. Enter China. What our media will barely talk about, the Chinese have now entered into 11 international agreements to trade products, including oil, without using dollars. China now has a currency swap deal with Brazil, Japan, Australia, Russia, and Iran. And get this, the deal with Iran, which produces crude oil but they don't refine any, it's just junk for oil trade. Because of UN sanctions on Iran, U.S. dollars cannot be used to buy oil from Iran. But that doesn't mean that Iran isn't selling oil, because they are. Goods including wheat, soybean meal, and consumer products are being traded by China and India for oil. One more thing here. For 38 years, the Saudis have protected the petrodollar, but that could change. The world's largest oil refinery is now under construction in Saudi Arabia, and it's being built by, you guessed it, the Chinese. China now actually imports more oil from Saudi Arabia than the United States does.
Now that's important because they not only are importing more oil than we do, they are now the world's largest trading nation. So you can see where the BRICS we've talked about over the last few weeks, why they really do have something to stand on. And how important this is because what was just explained there, if the petrodollar goes down, which I contend, I believe it is, and I think this is why we're at war in Ukraine. We're not at war, but why Ukraine is in the middle of this. And we're going to show more detail on that going forward. This is a very important thing to get because that petrodollar is the essence of who we are because people needed it. We have those 11 agreements in our package that we send out to people for information. We just want you to be informed because we are a great nation. We're going through a pain. I think a birthing pain in a way that if we're not in the body of Christ properly protected, we're not going to catch what's coming. 2008 showed our weakness because of our debt. And it's not just the United States. It's all of the Western world. The East has been setting this up, and China, because they now have the Silk Road revival, they now are leading in the way in BRICS. More and more transactions are being done in the Chinese currency. And people think, oh, it's going to take 20 years. I'm really saying I believe an event is coming quickly that's going to challenge that theory of 20 years, and we need to be properly protected, the body of Christ, to prepare, because if that how would they do it? I believe the new agreement for oil in the future will be a basket of currencies with gold. And many will try to say that, nah, it's just not going to happen. I think that's normalcy bias. I'm really saying you better be properly protected and diversified, and the only thing under that condition that'll protect you, because if the petrodollar goes down, 2/3 of everything we've printed will come home. If it's not managed properly, hyperinflation, otherwise inflation, which you've already seen, $1 gas, $4 gas, bread, food, education, clothing. The only thing that's been able to protect those are people that are in counter assets, hard tangible assets, that actually go up in value because the dollar goes down. And so as we get into this series of the petrodollar, that video really gave you a strong description, and now we'll kind of go through some other details to show why this has been the concern all along.
Terry, you've been talking about this ever since this program started a year and a half ago.
I know.
And I think it's amazing that Fox News was carrying this guy. That video quality wasn't great, but it still was so full of information that we could not afford not to play it for people.
Yeah, it was a local thing, so it was just a small local area that did that. But
people need to be aware of what's going on with this stuff.
That's what we're trying to do.
It's an awareness thing.
It's an awareness thing because we in the body of Christ must have the asset or the resources.
Absolutely.
If we are going to support the churches, support our families, feed the poor, spread the gospel, we better have resources, because I believe it's a global currency reset. But out of this reset, out of whatever is getting ready to come, U.S. survives. I'm not saying we're collapsing, but we become one of a lot of currencies, which means what are we going to do with all these we printed? I think we may even have a new monetary system coming. Regardless, this is so close to real serious trouble that if you're not properly diversified, you're going to be overnight shocked into depression by the amount of loss your account has taken. Remember, in 2008 that happened. So before we get going on this, for those who do have assets to protect, the IRAs and 401ks, get on the website here, register, give us a call. We'll be more than happy to send this package out, which does show the 11 agreements that he spoke of and does have other data that backs up, and how simply and easy it is that you could roll over your IRAs into physical precious metal IRA so you have something tangible and real. Because remember, the petrodollar is all about this. This is not backed up by anything anymore tangible. So you have to be in something tangible. All I know is if you would have been all along, where you'd be today, and that's significantly better off.
What's the next step that these nations are that are trying to exclude themselves from the petrodollar? What's the next step that they're going to take?
Well, here's basically a little mini timeline of that. If we just look at it this way, in 2002, Iraq was selling their oil for euros. When did we invade Iraq? 2003. See, so when they said it was about oil, when they said it was about oil, I think you're going to be more right than you realize. Russia and Iran signed a historic 500,000 barrel a day oil deal in their own currency. Just a few weeks ago, a couple months ago, Russia and China signed a deal for natural gas, $400 billion plus, in their own currencies. Now, this has never happened since the 70s when the petrodollar came into effect. There are many people that believe the Saudis are in trouble. Remember, most of our trouble, almost all of the 9/11 terrorists, 15 of them, come from Saudi Arabia. The groups marching through Iraq right now, these Islamic radicals, are all supported and financed by Saudi Arabia. China is now in with the new Saudi people, and China doesn't care like the Americans do as far as certain moral things. Chinese are building the largest refinery. So
where are they building it?
In Saudi Arabia.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So what we're saying is there is a shift potentially getting ready to happen. If this isn't done right, we lose the dominance of the petrodollar. Watch out. So, let's just look at it this way. The petrodollar and all of those relationships revolve around one core element. The BRIC nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Now, the predominant of them, they don't really care for Americans' dominance over the years. I think in America, really a personal opinion, I think we need to go through a reckoning of moral reconciliation. I think we need to take a look at how we are so deceiving ourselves and get prepared for our future and our family, because what's coming will be something, if you're not prepared, could hurt. Now, for instance, just look at this image 15. This is the actual Russian president, and something that's important in this whole petro deal, and why they're getting away with it. Look at that. That's gold bar. That's what they're using. You can take that off. Russia and China have signed a historic deal. Put image 16 up. These are the people that we're talking about here. There's the Russian president and the Chinese president. They signed the deal. You could take that off. One thing that people need to understand, wait till you see this. They used to be enemies. People don't believe that they're friends now. Out of nowhere, the people who used to be border enemies are now really close friends. Well, they're becoming close friends because of a common denominator, their desire to marginalize the United States. Why is this important to us, we the people? We're not stopping to some degree. Our government's going to do what they do for whatever reasons. They have more knowledge than we do on certain things globally. That's not what we're getting at. This is not political. This is about we, the people in the body of Christ, being properly diversified. So when the dollar loses its value even further, it's already lost 40%. Your retirement, your IRA, your standard of living, your children will have something tangible to stand on, because those two presidents forging an agreement through the BRIC nations are coming after the dollar. The only thing we have left is our military. And the greatest, and I'm a National Defense Medal holder of the U.S. Army myself, and I thank all my brothers and sisters who've served and all those who've supported them, but it's not about military anymore. It's about our debt, our obligations in the West, not just the United States, but Europe, and the pressure that high gas and oil prices are putting on the world. And those high gas and oil prices are because the dollar has been printed so many trillions, it's causing inflation to these nations, and they're deciding enough's enough. Stage 6, almost 7 of the empires. Once they lose faith in this currency, which it's happening now, watch out below and watch out for your retirement, of course.
Real riches is in tangible products and in production.
Yes.
It's not.
Yes, absolutely.
The United States of America, as much as I love this place, and I thank God, we prayed before we had service, before service the other night.
Thank God to be American.
Thank God that we could bring our Bibles to church without, somebody catching us somewhere and beating us up or whatever.
Yes.
I thank God for clean,
Jesus.
warm water. But at the same time, our country has quit being top producers like they used to be.
Well, and Charles, based on that right there, because we've exported We've done shows in the past about this. We've exported our manufacturing to these countries now that are coming against us. Charles, you did a great week or two ago where you showed how if you teach someone enough in your business, the ins and outs of your business, they leave and start their own company. We've done that with these other nations. China is rising that way. Russia, we have been just ticking Russia off everywhere we can. For what reason? I don't know. It's about Ukraine, though. And this petrodollar is so important because if I don't see how it doesn't, we're not going to walk away from that petrodollar. If that gets challenged to that degree, I contend it's war in a major way. This is terrible. Who wants that? We're tired of this. Let's have some love and peace.
But it boils down to productivity.
Yes.
And
we're not producing anymore.
But in order for us to be successful, there has to be some kind of productivity that is backing up your paper that you're using to exchange for goods and services.
You know what it was? We were in control of the global financial system.
Certainly.
All the banks and everything, all were under control of the U.S. monetary system. I just think that, unfortunately, you're seeing the BRICS have a bank now. They're challenging the IMF.
They have like a central bank.
You know the World Bank?
Yes.
They have the BRIC Bank.
Wow.
The IMF is only the West. The other countries are there's a division.
International Monetary Fund.
Yes, there seems to be this division in the East and West. I don't really know how this is playing out. Honestly, I really am too tired to even consider what that means. I just know that we in the body of Christ, if we're going to be here for the churches, our families, to support the ministries that feed the poor, to spread the gospel, we better have resources and be properly protected. Because if you don't think what's coming is not coming, you can sit with the normalcy bias all you want. We've been right all along. I'm not caring about the short-term price action of this protection. This is not about get rich quick. This is not about this or that on any type of financial gain. All we know is those in hard tangible assets for the future. When you start to dig into this global economic stuff, you're going to be shocked to know that it's not what you think. Do you want to wake up and see another 2008, or do you want to be properly diversified with your IRAs, 401ks, and retirement? So we highly suggest, if not Cornerstone, go somewhere, get a physical precious metals IRA, register on this website, give us a call. We'll show the economic data we're talking about. This will be loaded with information on how to roll over to a precious metals IRA. And if you haven't made Jesus Christ the center of your life, ask him in. The truth will set you free. And we will continue this petrodollar for the next couple weeks. God bless you.
Make sure that you're aware that you can watch these programs on demand 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on your personal computer, your smartphone, or your tablet by going to Cornerstone Asset Metals. The programs are there by topics and by dates. And also remember, we're on at the same time every week. Tell somebody about the program. We'll see you next week for the Wealth Transfer.